I feel like I have teleported to a whole different world, different culture, climate, language, religion, smell with all the different foods, and it's brilliant. I've just arrived in Urumqi in the northwestern province of Xinjiang, and everything has changed completely. This giant thing behind me looks almost identical to one of my favourite buildings in the world, which is the Tower of Death in Bukhara in Uzbekistan. First purchase of the day has been these kind of parcel things. I'm going to guess this is going to be like a lamb parcel. It is. It tastes a bit like kebab meat that we'd get in England, shredded up and put inside a pasty, so good start. Got two of these for Ürümqi, which is about £1 English. I think it's the first lamb we've had on the trip. It's a Muslim area, so pork, which is common everywhere else in China, is off the menu, and they replace it with lamb, and it's good lamb. Here's my little blue dot on Apple Maps, which goes part of the way to explaining why all the differences. So it's right next door to countries like Kazakhstan, and if you've travelled to Central Asia, and if you have, then you probably loved it just like I did, you will see the similarities everywhere. Firstly, by the way, it is bloody freezing, by far the coldest I've been so far on this trip. Yep, in here is very Silk Roady, from the tile patterns to the food on offer. They've got giant bowls of pilaf. Thank you. Pilaf is like the staple Central Asian food. I've had this so much in my life. It's like rice, vegetables, bits of lamb. The Central Asian cuisine, which I'm now including this place in as Central Asia, is quite basic, but it's really filling, really satisfying. There's a lot of bread, rice, meat, whatever fills you up and keeps you warm. You've also got like raisins mixed in as well in pilaf. It makes it a little bit sweet. It's good. Another £1. Looks good. It looks good. If you've seen anything from any of the previous stops on this trip, you will agree that this is such a change from the rest of the country. It honestly feels like I've crossed a border somewhere. Is it good? Good juice? Said it was good pomegranate juice. Well, it's definitely potent, I'll give him that. You will find more fruit here than in the rest of China, but that's because they grow more fruit here than the rest of China. The province is massive, and that means they have such a range of temperatures, it makes it perfect for growing all kinds of fruit, just like pomegranate. There is also a bigger police presence here than anywhere else that I've been in China. Within 5 minutes of landing in the city centre, I had my passport checked and my photo taken by the police, but it does only take 20 seconds and then you move on. There is actually a pretty swanky looking church through here, but it is behind a locked gate, so we're going to see if we can cross the road and get a better view of it. I can't actually tell you much about it, apart from it's cool to see a cross along with Chinese characters on a gold domed church in a Muslim part of China. That's a good combo, isn't it? It does say JHS on the front of it in our alphabet. Anyone know what that means? I don't. Oh, hold on. Crowd's just turned up on this bus. I wonder if I can get in now. Right, I'm sneaking up to the back of the crowd. Am I trespassing? Maybe. Boys, I've made it in. I would love to say I've gone unnoticed, but I've had a lot of curious looks. Alright, so that went well. Inside, as you saw, it's a pretty modest church. I think everyone was just a bit curious about how or why I was in there. What a cool spot, what good timing. Thank you. As you can probably tell, today's plan is to have a general mooch around the place, around Urumqi. and see what's what, see what the vibe's like. So far, the vibe is brilliant. This is the first building to resemble any kind of traditional Chinese architecture that we've gotten so used to in other cities. And in fact, it's not a Chinese traditional temple, it is actually a mosque. In Dali, we saw what became one of my favourite churches on the planet that was styled like one of these, but actually a Catholic church. Now we've got the same for the Muslims. And just next to it, we've got this plaque, which brilliantly displays one of the other key differences of this area, and that is the language, because here they speak Uighur, not Mandarin, as their main language. This is China, so there is of course Mandarin everywhere as well, but let's see if Google Translate can sort out this plaque for us. It looks to me like there we go, a commemorative plaque, 2013. Given that we can't actually go in the mosque, let me bore you with some more information about the Uighur language, which I think is fascinating because it uses the Arabic alphabet, even though it is not related to the Arabic language. It is in fact a Turkic language, so it's closer to Kazakh and Uzbek. It's nearby neighbours, but the reason it dropped the Chinese alphabet and never picked up the Roman or the Cyrillic alphabets is because the 10th century, when the Muslims came here in the first place, the Uyghurs adopted the Arabic script because it was better suited for two things. One, for actually pronouncing the linguistic intricacies of the Uyghur language, and so you could transcribe religious texts a bit better. But it stayed after all this time. So you might think, walking around a Muslim part of the world, when you see this kind of language, it is Arabic, but it isn't. It's Uyghur, not related to Arabic, but you do often see a lot of different alphabets. In the bathroom earlier, terrible example I know, but it is an example, 4 alphabets on one sign. So not just 4 languages, 4 different alphabets as well, which I don't think I've ever really seen before. Such is the diversity of this part of the world, not just Xinjiang. Xinjiang does, by the way, border 8 countries, so not only is it massive, but it has a lot of outside influence, which you can feel pretty much everywhere. But this part of the world, Central Asia included, is such a cool melting pot of things. It's always been at such a crossroad of trade routes, everything like that. You kind of get a bit of everything. You get the best bits of the religion, the food, the culture, the language, everything. Really cool part of the world. Even when you get to the more built up, maybe commercial side of the city, even the way they've done it is just completely different to the rest of China. Big, blocky, concrete, quite a lot of gold going on. It is a lot more like the former Soviet countries, even though obviously there's no actual connection, but it does come across that way. By the way, it is bitterly cold. If it is above 0, it's not by much. Let's go somewhere warm. We've arrived at the People's Park of Urumqi. We know that everywhere in China has one of these, but this one is different to all of them so far. Everyone is session ping pong. In fact, the whole area is an outdoor zone. Let me remind you how cold it is out here, and they're all out in full force. There's yoga, an outdoor gym, a ping pong tournament, it's all happening. It's obviously keeping them all warm because you can see all their coats hung up on the fence. Everyone appears to be older, maybe of the retired population, but I mean, it's not slowing them down. Some of these rallies are going on forever, and all the stretches they're doing in the gym, I couldn't recreate, so they're doing all right. As we've learned, there is a People's Park in every Chinese city. It's always a good spot to see what the locals are up to, and this is a good display of that, although it is definitely the deadest in terms of the nature in the park, and apart from that section, the emptiest, but that's probably a climate thing. So as we meander around People's Park and see what else is going on, let's go through a couple of facts about the place. First of all, the time zone, or in fact the time zones plural, because what is mental about here is there are actually 2 different time zones at the same time. It's really, really weird. So it has literally just hit 6 p.m. officially, because China, as big as it is, only has one time zone, but it is so wide that there is a massive discrepancy, obviously, with when the sun sets and rises, and therefore when the day happens for people. So Xinjiang has a second unofficial time zone, 2 hours earlier than the rest of China. So here it's actually kind of 4 o'clock, but it's officially 6. It means people go to work at 11 a.m, they eat lunch at 2 or 3 p.m, they go home at 7 or 8 p.m. Everything is 2 hours later officially, but in their mind it's 2 hours earlier. It wreaks havoc with trying to work out what time stuff is happening. So it kind of means, depending on who you ask and how you ask it, you could be given 2 completely different answers at any given moment. So they could tell you the bus leaves at 6:30, or it could leave at 4:30. And I don't know if anywhere else in the world does that. The reason they do it here is because in 1949, after the Chinese Civil War, when they did have different time zones for different parts of the country, like would be more practical, they decided to get rid of it all and put everyone on the same system to make it all a bit more uniform. Anyway, if you ask anyone in the city what time it is now, the answer for everyone will be the same. It looks like it's time to boogie. Look at this. Is it just me, or is everyone in Urumqi vibing? Isn't this all dead good? Everyone's just having an ace time. It's bloody freezing outside. It's not stopping anyone going out and getting at it. It's a Friday afternoon or evening, I suppose, depending on who you ask. What a cool place. Urumqi's dead good. I'm enjoying it as it is now, but I bet it's even nicer in summer when all these lake bits have actual water in them. The flowers are blooming. I bet the park is rammed. I bet it's dead nice in summer as well. Although, saying that, another fact for you, in 2008, only 16 years ago, Urumqi was ranked one of the top 10 worst places to live in the world because of how bad the sulphurous pollution was in the city. It was deemed dangerous to even be here, and that list was compiled by the Toronto Star just over 15 years ago. Now look at it. The city also has an official Guinness World Record for being the city furthest away from the nearest coastline, 1,600 miles between here and the nearest open body of water. There's no city on earth more isolated than that. We've found the card playing section. Xinjiang as a province also boasts the most religions and the most ethnic groups out of anywhere in China. It's also the biggest province. It's a sixth of the country's landmass, which in European terms is the same size as Germany, France, Spain and the UK put together. Or if you're American, that's Texas, Nevada, California and Minnesota, the same size as one Chinese province, Xinjiang. I'm walking now to get the metro back to the bazaar to get something to eat before we close this one off, and I don't know how this is coming across on camera. Maybe it looks like a big grey city. I don't know, but it's definitely unpolished. There's no way to get around that, but I like that kind of place. Most of my time travelling on and off camera is spent in slightly less than perfect places because you get such an authentic experience as a result. It stops mattering how shiny a skyscraper is and you get to focus on all the real stuff about a place, and for me this is one of them. I quite like it here. It's a good spot. Interestingly then, despite everything else about the city being different, the subway is exactly the same as every other subway I've used in China. The design, the signs, everything, it's all very uniform. It's exactly the same. So we're back where we started the day, and there's more dancing. I'm in the market for a pudding of some kind. These kids are loving it. then. So, thing number one almost looks like a cannoli or something. Cost me 2. It's 20p. It's got like jam in the middle. It's quite a soft pastry. This is pretty jammy Dodger-esque, if you remember my first video. And for pudding too, which has like a walnut on top, I think it's got raisins in it. I think that between the layers are raisins. I'm not really sure what it is. Thicker pastry, raisins between the crusty layers. 50p this one, 50p. Like I said earlier, the general cuisine is quite heavy. Even the puddings are very pastry based by the looks of it, but you're not going to go hungry. Good scran. So that's about that. 70p for pudding. What a good day. What a good start to Xinjiang. Urumqi is a cool city. I'm not interested in making this clickbaity and fear-mongery. It doesn't feel like there's any kind of security issue. It's just a pretty cool city. That's all I can say about it, really. I've really liked Urumqi, and for day one in the region, it's been a good one. Cheers, chaps. See you in a bit.